Now let's move on to the layers of the host and network. The first rule of operating system protection is regular updates. The second requires us to assess the level of operating system security. For that purpose, we can use dedicated tools recommended by the system's manufacturer. For small networks based on Microsoft software, we can use Microsoft Baseline Security Analyzer. This program will tell you what you're doing wrong. It's also advisable to try out programs used by the attackers. These programs identify weak spots in the system's security. If you find these weak spots before the attackers do, you will have the chance to repair them. Following the principle of least privilege is another rule. The principle states that each user must be granted only such privileges that are essential to the user's work. In particular, the user shouldn't be given administrator privileges. The principle is straightforward, but the attempts to implement it always face opposition. There are many reasons for it, and we will discuss them during later parts of our seminar. Real-time system monitoring is also crucial. Most systems come with tools dedicated for that purpose, and we will discuss them later. Network protection is easier if you divide it into subnets. This is not, strictly speaking, a security solution, but helps to limit the consequences of a potential attack. A couple of years ago, in a certain large company, a person who was responsible for the management of all computers there and thus had maximum privileges opened a malicious attachment. The effects were disastrous. That person used his company computer, which had administrator privileges, to check his email. It was one of those companies located in a modern premises with transparent glass walls. Because the company network wasn't divided into subnets, the malicious program had, from the very beginning, access to every computer. One by one, every monitor in the room turned off. One program, started on the computer by the person who had unlimited access privileges, managed to turn off all the computers in the company. Managing a network, we should ensure data confidentiality. This could be achieved through data encryption by means of proven solutions. At the application layer, this is achieved through SSL, and at the network layer by IPsec. A common method for an attack on computer networks is impersonating trusted hosts. We'll elaborate on that later on. It's relatively easy to prevent this type of an attack. Updating operating systems improves security because this problem either doesn't exist at all in the case of newer systems or is limited. Mutual authentication between computers that exchange data with one another is an alternative way of preventing such attacks. Many modern operating systems give you that option. However, it needs to be configured correctly because it's not a default system option. Network intrusion detection systems should also be used to monitor threats, just as was the case with the layers we discussed before. We now proceed to the perimeter layer and physical access layer. The perimeter is the point of contact between your relatively secure private network and the non-secure network of the Internet. Network firewalls used to be reliable protection against attacks at this layer. A firewall, just like a literal wall of fire, would block all network traffic. It prevented any network user from connecting to the Internet and anyone from the Internet from connecting with network users. This was back in the 80s. Then websites came along. Companies noticed that it was easier to obtain personal data through the Internet than through a phone call or direct conversation. IT departments started to unblock one direction of communication, from the secure computers to the untrusted ones. This made the firewall less tight. However, it still served its purpose and made the network relatively secure. Later, companies decided they wanted their own websites, and that company internal communication should take place via emails. From that point onward, each company network included a web server and an email server. This required configuration of the firewall so that it allowed communication from untrusted computers. This is how the situation looks today. Network firewalls are still needed because they protect against certain attacks, but they no longer guarantee security. The so-called demilitarized zone is a better solution. It's a special kind of subnet that can easily be accessed by external parties. All servers providing external-facing services should be included in the DMZ. Of course, you should monitor the network user's activity nonetheless. This involves monitoring both incoming and outgoing network traffic. The latter you can do through proxy servers.